Hi, I'm Dan, and today I'm going to show you how easy it is to build a website with Elements for Mac. Now, this is not going to be a particularly quick video because I'm just going to build the site and you're going to watch me work through the process. So you can certainly put this on double or triple speed to speed through it, and then you can get a gist for how easy it is to use Elements, and that it's all drag and drop, won't be any code in this website, so anyone can build this. All right, now I've been across to the competition. I mildly call them competition. They're rather large. Squarespace, you may have heard of them. I've been across and I was looking at their templates and I thought, why don't we see if we can just copy one of these, and then we've got something to work from, and you can kind of see how you might build one of their designs in Elements. And also it's a pretty typical classic web design here. So it's for a fitness site. We've got this is a big banner at the top and a menu with some text overlaying it. Then we've got this grid item here, or this grid layout here, a button, a quote, and then we've kind of got this footer area going on here. No animation or anything in this one, although I think we could add some animation elements because it's really easy. So let's see how to rebuild this in Elements. Let me pop this to the side because we're gonna come back to this quite a lot. And let's do a new project in Elements, and we'll go to I'll enlarge it to the desktop size. So let's just call this home. And so this is where you manage your pages. Now I'm going to go over to the components area, and this uses Elements to build our website up. So all these components will help us with our layout and design. And the first thing I'm going to do, and we're going to use these a lot, is add the container. And I'm going to use this, you generally use this for laying out your content. So I've dropped that into the page and I've got my container here. And what I want to do, I'm going to set a custom height on this. Let's refer back to our design. So you can see the container here, and we want to make this bigger. Let's go, what do we go? 500, 600, 700, probably 650 that banner is. Right, that looks about 650. We're going to need some images. So I've got together some images. I downloaded these from Unsplash in preparation for us to use. So I'm going to drop them into the resources. Now, let's select all of these. I'm going to select all my photos. And if I right click, I'm going to say new folder from selection. Boom. And that's going to put all my photos in there. And that leaves me with my two logos here. And I can open this little area down here to get a preview of my content and also the file name. Which will be handy for later when we're picking images. Right, let's get back to the design. So I'm going to go back to my components, and we want a background image here. So I'm going to open the background, and rather than it being a color, because that's currently what it is, and I can pick from all these pre-built colors or built-in colors in the theme, but we don't want those. We want an image. So I'm going to pick image, and let's go back here. And we want a nice image for our header. Let's pick this one. I'm going to drop that in. That's looking good. Now we need some text, and for that I'm going to drop a flex in. Now the flex is very good for laying out content and then adjusting the width. So this flex here, let me go over to the node browser, and this node browser will show you how your website is laid out. So at the top I've got a container, and then I've dropped in my flex, and I've got my two flex items. And if I highlight the flex, I can change the gap on those, which is really, really handy. So I can do this, and obviously the more flex items I have, if I copy these, if I copy that, and or we'll just duplicate this here, you can see I've now got 3 of them. And if I select the flex again, when I change the width of the gap height, it changes all of them. We're only going to need 2 because we're going to add this text here, and I want some heading text. I'll drop that in, and if you look closely, you can see it's some grey text. And you can see that's inside my flex item there. If you're ever unsure where you've dropped your elements into the page, you can just look in the node browser and find them here. We've also got search down here, which is a live search. But right now I've highlighted my text, and what I want to do, let's change the color first. We want it white so we can see it. And then I'm going to change the font styles. We want this a lot larger. That looks pretty good. And we're just going to copy the content here, because this is quicker than me making this up, because really this is about showing you how you might build a website. So we don't need to spend the time with original content or original design for that matter. Right, now, so we've got the heading there, and we want this subheading. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold down Option, and that lets me copy it. It's also triggered my little shelf app that I have, which shouldn't have popped up, but it did. Right, let's copy this text, and I'm going to paste it in here. Clearly, it's too large, so we want to go down in size. What do we think? Maybe 2XL is good enough. You can create more text styles in the theme studio and adjust these ones if these don't quite fit your match. If you wanted something in between these two sizes, you could go and create new classes up here. But we're not doing that today. We don't need to do that. I would say this gap is too far apart, so I've selected my flex, and we'll go down in size. And that's pretty good. One thing we do need, I noticed this is a serif font. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go into the theme studio. We're going to go to fonts, and we want to create a new font here. We'll just call this serif, and I'm going to pick a Google font. Now I have this little tool installed on my Mac called What Font, this extension, and it's really good because it allows you to hover over fonts and see what they're using. So here they're using Eastban. So what we can do is we can just, there we are, Eastban. We can just find that. And there it is. And actually what we could do, I think, what was this? Pop-ins. I think that is actually a Google font as well. So let's override our heading font. Let's override that. And let's search for Pop-ins. There it is. So now we've got our serif and our heading, and those are matching this site. So if we go in here, we've got heading selected, and then in here we want serif. Boom. There we are. So that's looking pretty good. If we want it a bit more readable, I could put a background overlay on. We can blur the image, which makes it very readable, but you can't really see what's going on in the background. Or you can do an overlay, like a color. So, you know, I've got black here. We could darken it slightly to make it more readable. So that's looking pretty good. So quite easily we have we've copied this header here, and it's very flexible, and we can obviously add more items to it should we want. Just add another flex item, drop a button in there, things like that. So that's looking pretty good. So next, let's challenge ourselves with this classes area. So again, I'm going to go back to my components, and I'm going to drop in a container. And I'm going to set the container set to auto, and that's great. So it's going to stretch whatever content I put in here, it's just going to stretch out. Whereas this top container was set to a fixed height. So that won't keep stretching. The more content I put in there, it wouldn't keep stretching. So we're going to go here, and I'm going to go, we're going to change the background to black, because of course that's what we want. And I'm going to add some padding to it. One, because it's a bit nicer to work in a bit of a larger area. So let's get that to 20. And we can kind of see that. And in here, we know we want a grid. So I'm going to drop in my grid item, and let me go to the node browser just so you can see. So I've got a grid, and then I've got my grid items, which represent each one of these. Now, these are really easy to work with and really fun. You can change how much of the grid they take up. Now, these grid items work on 12 columns. So you can tell each item to take up as few or as many columns as you want. So if I tell it to take up one column, you can see it stops here, and this kind of flows round, and I could take this one and we could make that smaller and bump it up there, or I can make that 12 and then it fills the row. So these are really flexible, and you can obviously have as many of these as you want. You know, I can just copy and paste these. It's all really good stuff. Remove selected items, because we only want 4. So I'm going to select my 4 grid items, and we want to set them all to 6, so they're even, like this. Now let's have a look. We are going to use a container. Now this will change in future betas, so you should be aware that while I'm building the site like this now, some of these controls will change in future betas. So there might be, we're looking at adding more controls to these grid items. So, but for now, this is the way we're going to do it, and this still will work in the future. There might be just an even simpler ways to do this. I'm going to drop in a container here, again, like we did for this heading, because what I want to do, I want to put a background image in there, because we want this kind of style. And let's have a look. We could use this weightlifting one. So I've dropped that in there, and you can see, actually, we're going to set that container. Let's set that to a height as well, a custom height. So you can see it's 250, probably wants to be bigger than that, 400. 400 looks pretty good. And again, in here, I think I'd probably drop a flex in for our text. Although you could just drop a heading. Let me show you. You could just drop a heading in here twice. Let's make that smaller. And I could duplicate this. And now I've got 2 headings in here, and that's great, and that works. But it's harder to change the distance between them. Like if I want to change the distance, then I could put padding on them. Doesn't feel like quite like the right way to do it. So I want my flex, and I'm going to put that in my flex item, and then I'm going to duplicate it again into the other flex item. So let's have pull your weight, and we'll copy the time there. And again, we need to change this because that is too large. So we'll just change our font size. We might want to come down even smaller to base, and we want that to be serif. So we'll change that to serif, or maybe large. Yeah, so I'm just changing the font size. It's all stuff we've done before. So that's looking pretty good. And if we wanted to make the text more readable, we could do that. Actually, we could put some animation on this. But first, now, we're going to go into a bit more of an advanced feature now. We're going to do something called globals. Because what we've got here, we've got these 4 items, and they're essentially all the same, but just with different content. And what we don't want to have to do is copy. I could copy this across here and redo this. You know, this is another item, but if I change the design on this one, I'm going to have to change the design here as well. You know, if I decide to put on padding, then I'm going to have to do it on this one. Or if I change the size of it, you know, I'm going to have to do it on this one. And then if I'm adding effects, I'm going to have to do it twice or 4 times. And that's not right. What you really want is to create a little template for this. And we call those globals. So let's delete this one. And we'll take this section here. Let's call this classes card. And what we're going to do, we're going to right click, and I'm going to say convert to global. And you'll notice it's turned it into green, and it's given us this little globe here with all these links down the side. And that's to tell us that this is a global. Oops, let's pop that back in the grid item. This is a global, and all of these items are linked to the global above it. So if I go back to my components area, you can see I've got this class's card has now appeared under globals, and that means we can reuse it. So I drop it in there, that's looking good, drop it in there, great. So now any changes I make here, if I think actually that font, oops, there's a small bug there we need to fix. Let me just, this is a beta after all, let me just create another page and come back. I think, well, actually this font is a bit too large. I could change it to 2, and you'll notice they all change, which is really nice. So I'm editing this one here, but you know, I might want to change the font style. And they're all changing, so I don't have to click round or multiple select, things like that. So really handy. And the same here with if I wanted to change the background on here, or the background overlay, should I say, you know, it's doing all of these together. And I know you're probably thinking that's great, but I want the content to be different, and that's easy to do. So let's start with this card here. I'm going to go to the background, and these little links have appeared down here because this is a global. And what we want to do, or what these little grey links are telling us, is these are all linked, and we want to break the link with the with its master component, you know, with the global. So if I click this then breaks the link, and it will only affect this one. So let's get another image in here. That's so sorry, I was just copying the text there in preparation for this. So now this is custom, but we want to change this text. But right now, if I type in here, they all change. And what we need to do, we need to go to the global overrides, and because I've got this selected, and say we want to override the heading. And so now I can paste that in there and we've overridden it. And the same with this. So I'll select the other heading, override, and we'll paste that in there. So that's looking pretty good, and we're going to go ahead and do the same with the other ones. Break the link, and let's get some other images in there. Gymnastics, and we'll break the link on the text. Gymnastics, same here again, break the link there, copy this in. But even though we've broken these links, like I said before, it makes it really easy to adjust this design, and they'll all adjust together. So it's pretty cool. Powerlifting. Let's break that and then paste that in there. Break the link, or override the text there and paste that in. So that's looking pretty good. So we've quickly built these. But what I'm noticing is some of this text is hard to read. So what it might be nice to do is to do a little effect that when you roll into here, the background blurs and we can read the text a bit better. So, I mean, there's multiple things I could have done. I could have put in, like we talked about before, I could have just put in a black background, and then all the text becomes more readable. So that is one option. But I'm going to use the effects. And I want this to, I've selected my component, and I've selected the container, and I want it to work on just the background, this effect. And what I want to happen is when I hover into it, so I'm going to pick hover, and I want the active state, so when I hover in, I want the background to blur. Well, that's quite a heavy blur there. So that's pretty good. And I could drop the opacity so we let more of that blackness through. So that's pretty good. And you'll notice it's done this to all of these. And we could change the scale. We want to now. You can see we can see it overlap there, and what we want to do, we want to say overflow hidden on that container so that you don't see the blurring. But this is pretty cool. So now when a customer rolls over these, they can read the text a lot better. You know, I could have picked better pictures, but this gives me a chance to show off the features. And of course, I can click any one of these and change the effect on it, and it will change all the other ones unless I break the link. So I mean, I'm pretty happy with that effect. We could spend a long time tweaking these and playing around. And we could make that a little bit slower. Let's go 600. Yeah, that's pretty nice, isn't it? Just a subtle effect. So already we're building a more impressive site than the one on Squarespace. And dare I say it, they wouldn't make it this easy to have these nice effects. They probably have pre-built ones, but as you can see, we've really got a lot of control here. You know, I could even rotate that. I don't think you'd want to do that because that's pretty jazzy. But, you know, you might do on one of your sites. There's you could get some nice effects going on there. Let's set that back to 0. Okay, good. Let's move on because we spent enough time playing around with this, and I think that's the thing. When you start building this, it's such good fun that you kind of get carried away in tweaking these effects. Let's go and view this, see where we are in the web browser. So this is looking pretty nice. You know, in not very long, we're already starting to put this site together, and we've not been working fast. I've been pretty relaxed in doing this. What I'm going to duplicate this grid item, and I'm going to get rid of the container there. So because I wanted a grid item at the top here, and I'm going to make that 12 because I want to put this classes into the grid item. Let's do, yeah, I'll take that, and we'll call that classes. And we probably want this to be a bit smaller. And if you're doing SEO, this is currently set to H2. You might want that as H3 or H2, but this is where you would change it. We'd make this H1, and I would make this H2. So we want a bit of padding here. Again, multiple ways we could do this. We could put in a container, or we could just put some padding on the bottom of here to stretch things out a little bit. And I think in this case, that will work quite nicely. So now we've got our classes there. And what I want to do, let's duplicate this grid item, because we want this, if I drop that in there, it will put it at the end. Boom, it will put it down here, and I don't need the heading because what I want to put in here, I want to put in a button, and let's see, pop in a button there. Button's currently filling the width, which we don't really want. Let's put it on custom. So 250 looks pretty good, and let's double click in there, see all classes. Now, if we were building the entire site on here, we would link the button, and we're going to choose one of our other pages. But we're not. We are right. Okay, yeah. So we're going to need a container in here. Because we need some padding on that grid item. And this is what I mean about in future betas, this probably will change because we're looking at standardizing controls. So you would have some padding and margin on these grid items. So you wouldn't have to do this. So it will get simpler, which is a good thing. Because I've used a container, I don't want to see the background color. So I've made that transparent. And then the padding, let's add that 10. That looks pretty good. Let's go up to the theme studio, and this is currently using, if I go to background, this is currently using the brand color, and it seems to me the brand color here is yellow. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find our brand color, and I'm going to duplicate it, and this is overriding it, and I'm going to pick, that's a pretty good yellow. Or in fact, I could pick this yellow. And you can see our button changing there. So that's pretty nice. And then I want some fonts, and we've got to change the color there. Let's change that to black. So that's fonts, and then same on the font hover. What do they have on font hover? So it just kind of gets a darker color, which we're doing as well already. And sizing, I think we want a little bit more height. We want to make the button a bit more chunky, a bit more. Let's make the button a bit wider. 270. It's looking pretty good. And the fonts, I think we want to make those larger. Yep, I think go with larger. And I'll do the same on the hover, because otherwise when I hover we get a small font, which I don't particularly want. Where was that? Text style, large. Where's the background hover? Just make it go. I'm just making it the same color, but making it go a little bit transparent. Yeah, so that's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. And what we could do here, because we're a bit more fancy than Squarespace, we could add a little effect to this and do a hover effect and active. So when it gets rolled over, it scales down just a little bit, which is quite nice. Let's go a little bit less. So yeah, just a little bit of animation there. Very nice. So that's pretty cool. This next bit's going to be easy, and you've probably already guessed it. We just need another container. Let's drop that down the bottom here. Whoops, that didn't go in. So I'm just rearranging things in the tree here. Aha, there we are. Oh, I've dropped it inside the other container. That's the fiddly thing here. Sometimes it's hard to get it outside. There we are. It's the same thing in the macOS Finder, really. Sometimes, or with these tree views. I'm just making excuses. Right, let's get on with this and let's add some padding to here, 40. Because you can see here they've got quite a chunky bit of padding there. We need some text. Oh, let's not copy the global text. I don't want that. We'll just do a new heading down here. And again, I'm moving quite fast because you've seen all this stuff before about the gym. Boom, and that is a serif font. Let's do that and make it a bit smaller. Lovely. Oh, let's do the flex so we can adjust what we're doing. And I'll just duplicate that. We'll copy this. Boom, and that is in the serif font, but that wants to be larger. 2XL, pretty good. Now their line height is bigger here, and again we could override some of our text styles here, or we could create some new text styles that we could use throughout the site. But I am going to cheat here, and I'm just going to override this one, and I could just increase the line height there just a little bit to match. Oh yeah, and the weight of the font, and that's the letter spacing there. So you can kind of override these things. Okay, so let's select the flex. They've got a little bit more of a gap between those two. So that's that section done. And what I'm going to do, let's just duplicate this section. And because these two are very similar, so let's get that text and paste it there. And that is a heading style, and it is a lot larger, so I'm going to go 4XL. And then with this one, let's paste that in there. That stays serif, and going to make that large. Yes. Let's make both of these white. So I've selected both of them. And let's get an image in this background so we can see what we're doing. That's quite a nice one. Yeah, that's pretty good. That is pretty good. I'm just going to do an overlay so we can read it even better. But this is really giving us the same vibe as this. And now we've got our footer down the bottom. So again, I am going to drop in a container. Let's see if we can get it at the end. No, we did that thing again. There we are. That's now I've done it. We want to make our container black. And we're going to add a little bit of padding again. Let's go 10. Oh, I didn't. Sorry, I haven't. Let's make that black. And to do this, I think we're going to use a grid down here. So I'm going to drop in my trusty old grid item, grid. And it looks like it's 3 columns. So you can see 1, 2, 3. And I've got my 3 columns. I'm going to select my grid items and we just want to bring that in so they're all equal. And now they're filling that space. This is going to be a flex item. And I can probably just take this button and I'm duplicating it, popping it in there. And that says, oops, join today. Join today. And it's not taking up the whole width. Let's see. Yeah, we'll just right align that because I think that's what they've done there. And it's also a little bit smaller. 230. Okay, and the flex, let's drop that in. We'll have some of that text. Open daily, and let's just align that. I think it's smaller, so we'll go there. And we'll have some of that text as well. Okay, let's sort out the text first. We want it left aligned, and I'm going to copy that. Oh, and then we'll copy that line as well. Boom. But what we want to do, we want to duplicate that. And let's copy the address. Now, we definitely want more space in this. And again, as you've probably already guessed, if you've been paying attention, that we're using a flex item. So what we can do, we can just increase the gap, which is magic, because then they all spread out. And look at that. We're really, let's move this up a little bit. Yeah, we're really getting somewhere now. And let's see. We've got these logos. I'm not going to bother about that because we'd have to export some icons, but we can put in a logo there. So what I'm going to do is let's drop in an image. And in the image, I've got my logos here that I've already done. But it's a bit, that is a bit big. That's a bit big. So we can do a custom. Let's leave the image as the original size, but we'll just scale it. Let's say 200, 150. Could play around with that. That's pretty nice. That's looking good. We didn't do the menu. Now, this menu component is going to change. This is the one we have right now, but it will be, we're working on some new components that will be more flexible. Let's call this page classes, and then we'll do one more and we'll say contact. Let's call this about, so that we're kind of matching the site here. And we need a button up the top. Here, let's scroll up. I'm just copy that in. Effects, I don't want that. Join now. And the sizing is too big. Let's put it on auto. And let's see, background. I don't want the curvy corners. and I want to make that black and the text white. And I also want to, it's the padding I want on the sizing, because we're quite chunky. I want to reduce that down a bit. Join now. So as I said, this is the menu item is, we're still working on it, and there will be, it'll be different, so this will be more customizable, but I'm just using this for now. And we want to put the logo in here. So I've opened up my site details, which are up the top here, and where's my images? Here we are. Fitness logo, there we are. We'll drop that in there. Done. And I want to just tell this menu to mobile menu. We want the desktop logo. We want it to use the site logo. Boom. There we go. So let's view this in the browser. Let's bring that over here. So this is our site, which I'd say is looking pretty damn good that we've just put this together. We could add some more animation to this. Let's go and add a bit of pizzazz to it. We could make these cards slide in. So what I'm going to do, we could do this on the, well, we could do it on the container, because these are all, because these are globals, that will apply to all of them. So, oh, we're having a little bug there. I don't know why that is. Let's just check. Let's just refresh that page. So now, just by enabling the scroll effects, it's enabled it on all of these. So if we view it in the browser, you can see they're not there. And as I scroll down, they're going to fade in. So that's pretty nice. And what we could do, we could have them slide in horizontally. I always get these confused whether we're going to need minus. Okay. Yeah, so they're all sliding in that way. So what we're going to want to do, I want minus 100. On these side ones, minus 100, so they slide in this way. And on these ones, we're going to want to override the value and have 100, so they slide in the other way. So let's do that. Boink and 100. And so now when I scroll down, yeah, and that is very classy. Very nice. Just adds a little bit of polish to the site. And you can see those effects are all independent. Lovely stuff. We could also add animation to our titles as well, which we'll do on the flex items. So I'm going to select both of these flex items, and we're going to enable the scroll effects. And at the moment, that is just, they're going to fade in, but we want them to move vertically. Let's take a guess. Let's take a guess and say we want this one to be minus 50, and we want this one to be 50. Did I get them the right way around? Yes. So now when I load the page, they just come together like that. We might want to add a slight delay. I'm going to select both of them so that the animation is happening at the same time, and we're going to make it a bit slower. And I think that's pretty good. I'm going to do the flex. They're a bit far apart for my liking, so let's do that. I think that looks better. So now when I load the site, oh, that's still happening quite fast. Well, oh, I only put 50 in there. Now the 500 milliseconds. Let's try that. So now, and then it fades in. Whoops. And that's looking pretty good. That is very nice. So it just fades in there. And we could do the same here on this grid item. We could add some little effects to that so that it drops down, minus 50. Yeah. So we've got that loading in. I scroll down and that drops in, and then these fade in. That's really, really nice stuff. Let's do a little fun one on here. So on this flex item, I could add a little scroll effect. Boom. And at the start, I'm going to make it really blurred, and so it comes into focus. Let's do 3000 with a little bit of a delay. And let's view that. Yeah, nice. So when I get to the bottom, see that slowly fading in there. And -100. Maybe we'll speed that up a little bit. 100, I think that will be better. Yeah. And we could add the same effect. Where are we? A similar, well, we could just fade this one in maybe. Maybe if we delay that, let's have a look. So our main thing comes in first and then that fades in afterwards. So let me close this out of the way. So really, you've watched me put together a page. I know we've copied it from Squarespace. I'm sure they won't mind for the purposes of this demo. But it's great to be able to rebuild these sites and just show you how you might put a site together. So I hope you've learned kind of how the basics work and how much fun it is to work in this, and that you can see everything happening in real time, and it's super easy to change this stuff, and we can add animations and all that good stuff. So there is our lovely site. I will publish this file along with the video, so you can go and check it out yourself. You might not be able to do the transition animations won't work if you haven't got the new beta, which will be coming out, which will be beta 12. So I don't know whether this video will come out before beta 12. If it does, just wait for beta 12, then this stuff will all work, and that'll be great. All right, thanks for watching this. I hope you learned some stuff on Elements, and you can see how easy it is and how powerful it is to use. All right, thanks for watching. Cheers, bye.